Now, one of the unwritten licences, you could call it, new governments are given in their first week in Parliament is the right to bash up the previous government for everything the new government inherited, except for the good stuff, of course. And with inflation rising, debt accumulating, power prices soaring, Labor did plenty of the bashing this week. But as Peter pointed out last night on the program, that old chestnut can't last forever. Sooner or later, the government needs to tell us what their plans are and what they intend to do about the number one issue. Forget about everything else they put on the table this week. The number one issue, which is the cost of living. To discuss this and more, we're joined now by Shadow Finance Minister Senator Jane Hume. Jane, thank you very much for your time. That first week in Parliament on the opposition benches can be very sobering. How did you cope with the constant flogging?
Well, I was actually watching from a distance this week, Chris. I'm afraid I was in isolation with COVID, but I was watching on. I know, who would have thought I missed all the action, except there I was. It was actually quite a strange perspective to be able to talk to my colleagues, watch question time and see it as a participant, but also, with some distance and perspective too. And yes, of course, it was a tough week. You know, there's understandably going to be an incredible amount of hubris in a new government. But I think what was most disappointing and indeed most telling this week was the statement by the Treasurer about the state of the economy. Because, as you said, it was big on rhetoric. There was an awful lot of finger pointing. There was an awful lot of boohooing about how hard his job is. But there was nothing. There was no plan to reduce the cost of living, to reduce those power bills, to rein in inflation, which of course is the big issue of the day. And I think that was a great disappointment. Instead, what we saw in this first week of Parliament was the true priorities of this new Labor government. Unwinding the ABCC, which has been so effective in reining in militant unions. And now we hear of all strange things to decide to target the Lord's Prayer at the beginning of a Senate sitting session, which is quite extraordinary. I don't think that they're the priorities of real Australians, of ordinary Australians. The priorities of real Australians, of ordinary Australians, is reducing those power bills, making sure that the price at the bowser goes down or is manageable at least, and of course that the price of groceries is affordable for ordinary Australians. Yeah,
you're right. I think the public will get sick of the blame game. They can use this for a few weeks more probably, but after that the public will want to say, well, hang on, put your money where your mouth is. What are you going to do about it? I think you did right.